Thanks, Steve, for coming on.
Welcome. Good to be here.
I've known Steve for a long time.
Yeah, we have known each other for a long time. Out
at
probably,
Burt.
I don't know, out in probably met in we started Gidgee in what was that?
You started 90 and I went
1990.
there in 91.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Go back a long way.
Yep.
Steve, been a great friend through many ups and downs through life.
Yeah.
But tonight we'll hear Steve's story. So thanks, Steve.
Welcome.
You want to tell us? So you're married, 5 kids.
Yeah, married to Felicity. We got 5 children. We had 5 kids in 7 years, and we had a television set as well. So that's kids used to ask me that when I was doing religious education in schools. Please, sir, don't you have a television set? When I told them I had 5 kids. Yeah. So they were born all over the place. We had a kid eldest was born in Toowoomba. Next daughter, that's Zach. Next daughter was born in Burke. Then we went to Rockhampton. Matilda was born there. Then we come back to Burke and had Colby and had Seth. And yeah, then we moved to Emerald. So we're kind of moving around. We did a lot of pioneering stuff with Cornerstone. So we were sort of moving around. So everywhere we went, we had kids, it seemed. So we stopped moving and stopped having kids. Thought that was a good idea. Found out what the issue was. So we stopped moving. Yeah, so we've lived all over central New South Wales and Queensland, and grew up on the Downs, Toowoomba boy. Born in Brisbane. Wife and I both grew up on the Downs in Toowoomba. Went to the same church, and had 2 brothers and mum and a dad. That was pretty traditional. And dad was from...
Pretty traditional in most ways, Steve.
Pretty traditional in most ways, yeah, having a mum and dad, yep. Even as weird as it gets, everyone still has a mum and a dad, I think, these days, until they work out scientifically to do that differently. And our dad's family and mum's family were all from the Downs, so mum, dad. Hey?
What was it like growing up for you, Steve? With your dad was a truck driver, so he was away a fair bit.
Yeah, had
you want to tell us
growing up? And mum was married before she married dad, so she had my older brother's stepbrother. So he was 4. She married dad, she had me, and then they got married. And I never found it out until mum died, actually, that they. But it sort of solved a lot of questions for me, because there was always a bit of enmity between me and mum. I don't know why, but anyway, I think it was that she had to get married dad because she already had 1 kid and she'd fallen pregnant with me. So anyway, but yeah, growing up was all right. Dad come from a big kind of religious brethren sort of family. Had 6 brothers, 2 sisters, all in Dalby, which is only an hour away. And just because of ill health with asthma and relationship probably with mum a bit, I spent a lot of time in Dalby with my family, being reared by them. Never made me any less close, I didn't think, to mum or my brothers. But went to school out in Dalby a bit. But yeah, I mean, lived in Toowoomba and played sport, went through school. Had some great teachers. One of my teachers, my sports teacher, who was then become a basketball coach, come and stayed here just recently. He's still a really good friend, had a major influence on my life. This guy, John Goulson. I used to remember when I wrote out my application to go into ministry with Youth for Christ, one of the things said, who's the person who's made most influence on you and why? And I wrote 4 foolscap pages about John Goulson. about my sports teacher, and amazing influence that guy had. Incredible man, love him. He's still alive, and it's really interesting. He got cancer a while ago, and I couldn't get to his. He's had an operation. I had something on. I couldn't get there, so I sent Zachy, my eldest son, down, and so my eldest son went down and prayed with him before his surgery. It was pretty amazing, really. That was kind of one of those great memories you never forget. But yeah, life was.
So growing up with your family, you explained to me a couple of times now that there was some things were a bit weird that you couldn't work out what was going on. Well,
yeah, well, it was just kind of like because Dad was away a lot, and Mum. So Mum was there, and Dad was a truckie, so he was away a lot. And Dad sort of, I don't know. Mum would always, she sort of picked me out a bit. It's kind of a bit of a Cinderella story, I suppose. I don't know, but she'd always call Dad your father, and there was just like always separated me out a bit, like and the other kids, the eldest one and the younger one, would get looked after. Probably, I reckon, back in the day, better than me. She'd, do things that I never realised was even going on until relatives told me later. But things like to go and buy takeaway food. So they ran out of fish and chips, Steve. You'll have to have a Vegemite sandwich or something like that. Which I didn't.
Say that again, Steve, just for the guys that didn't see that.
She'd buy takeaway. We ate a lot of takeaway food when we were growing up, but Mum, I remember a few occasions that Mum would say, "Oh, they didn't have enough fish and chips, Steve. So you'll just have a Vegemite sandwich." It's kind of funny because I don't really remember it really worrying me that much because I was just looking for a feed, so it didn't matter. But there was a lot of those sort of issues that were kind of strange. And so Dad used to sort of look out for me, but even though he was away a lot, but I suppose you could call it his favourite, only because he knew I was getting a rough deal while Mum was away. So consequently, I'd go with Dad a lot in the truck and ended up with his family up in Dalby, where I was really taught a lot about just relationships and just getting on. And they're a big, open, welcoming, loving family, and got looked after really well and got brought up right. And Dad's sister, who never married, Auntie Enid, she was a saint, and she put a lot of effort and prayer, and we had a great relationship, and so it was interesting. Mum had a massive car accident when I was only young, and so the family was involved a lot. We could have. It's strange, when you think of it, because both my brothers, the three of us we've all been married for nearly 40 years, had kids, still together, all going good. But my parents' marriage was so dysfunctional. They were just insane. They used to argue and fight. And I can remember as a kid just wishing they'd divorced just so they'd stop yelling at each other and fighting. So there was just a lot of hurt and heartache, a lot of that sort of stuff. And I guess we were set up to be absolute hooligans and just, messed up. But the three of us have really had good marriages and families. And we've sort of had the opposite of what we grew up with, which is, it's kind of interesting, isn't it? There's a lot of debate these days about nurture and nature and what's, like what you're born with and what. If you come down to just nurture from our mum and dad, Dad was faithful, Mum struggled, and there wasn't much nurturing went on, but there was obviously a nature that was part of the DNA of us that worked for us three boys, for the three of us, and. Yeah, so
and you went on to help a lot of people. See, like, what was a turning point in your life? Like you were a builder.
Yeah, I did a carpentry apprenticeship. Most of us, we're all builders. My two brothers builders. We did all that, but I always had a yearning. I love the story of David Livingstone. My auntie Enid used to read David Livingstone to me and read me stories when I was sick with asthma and stuff. And I remember my doctor asked me once, what do you want to do when you grow up, Steve? And I said, I want to be a doctor, a missionary, and a preacher like David Livingstone. I still remember that. John Wilson, he was Dr. John Wilson. He saved my life so many times because I was really chronically bad with asthma and I was in oxygen tents, all sorts of stuff. Anyway, this guy, I remember saying that. And years later, about 10 years ago, we're in Africa. We went to Livingstone, and there's a statue of David Livingstone there. And gosh, it was pretty moving time, really. So I kind of always had that in me, and I was building and wasn't real. I wasn't a great builder. I loved it. I loved building, but I wasn't quick at it, and I wasn't ever going to make any money out of it because I was always talking to my subbies about God and running off doing school seminars, and so I kind of just pulled the pin on it. And my uncle Stafford Williams, he was on the Gold Coast. You might have heard of him. He's a bit of a legend in Christian circles, but he was my uncle. He's married to Dad's sister. And so I went down there and started an Youth for Christ internship with him. But I remember pretty specifically one day coming back from Dolby, I was building a house and it was just kind of like, I don't know, I was just praying and talking to God. And it was harvest time, all the fields on the Jimba Plain, which is amazing wheat-grown country, all full of wheat. And they were harvesting, you could see them. And I was just talking to God about the harvest, and I just got a real strong call. I remember telling Fliss, my girlfriend at that stage, I said, I think I've got to go into ministry. So anyway, that really just changed everything for us. We'd bought a block of land. I was going to be a builder, and we were just going to settle down and in Toowoomba and just sort of, live happily ever after. And then I just pulled up stumps and went to the Gold Coast, and we did end up getting married, but, living on, raised and support, living on faith for a long time. That changed our life, but, I never regret it. It was good. It was a good thing. I'm still building. I'm still a qualified carpenter builder, but I only build my own places, and they're not real good. But I think I probably did better doing it. Well, I figured with ministry, at least I wasn't going to make any money out of building. So I may as well, if I'm not going to make any money, I may as well go to ministry, because you're not supposed to make any money out of ministry, not like some fellas do today or talk about you're supposed to make money out of it. But anyway, I just decided I want to be like Jesus, who didn't really worry too much about where he slept or whatever. But I got married and carted my wife and kids all over the countryside, which Jesus never did. Smart move. And, so anyway.
You travelled a lot speaking. You used to go away just about, when you were at Burke, I remember you used to go away just about every weekend.
Yeah, I was like you, Paul. And in your last 26 days, only been home for this many days. And out trying to save the world, had a big vision and a passion. And we used to go and speak and recruit and take students with us. And I was away a lot, travelled a heck of a lot. Probably, I reckon, too much. If I think back to things that if I'd change anything, even though, the kids used to come with us, they enjoyed the adventure. They've all got gypsy blood in them now. They all travel and move around. I've got 2 kids living in America, so they're, I think I should have not moved around quite as much and been away as much. As much as we could, we travelled together. We'd go and speak at camps and take the kids with us and travel. We went right around Australia with Steve Grace. In 1994, we did the Great Australian Family Tour, which was an amazing time. And we had all of our kids with us, and Steve's kids and Steve Grace. And it's 19 kids and 14 adults. And we did a big tour.
So how's your kids going now, Steve?
Yeah, look, they're doing well at the moment. They're all doing well, touch wood. Like I said, I've got 2 kids living in America. One's married and the other one's got a girlfriend, and they're doing well. Eldest son, he's a doctor. He's doing well. I think, and then the other two in Australia here, Matilda, she's a single mum. She's got two boys. One of our grandsons, her son's with us today. I took him for a ride on the motorbike this afternoon, which he loved. And then my other son's just had, him and Jessie have just had our first granddaughter. So got 5 kids. They're all doing well. They're all at various stages of faith. I wouldn't say any of them are certainly not going out to save the world, but they're good kids. They've all got a faith. None of them have denied Jesus, but they'd probably not really, doing a lot of practical application, even though, or in terms of, it depends what you look at. I mean, they will do anything for anybody. All of them have got great servant hearts. They really do look out for people who are struggling, and they'll get in and help people. They're honest and they're hardworking, and yeah, they're doing well. In saying that, one of our kids, one of our daughters had real addiction problems, and that really got the better of her and us almost, and that was really, really hard for quite a few years. We probably made a lot of mistakes along the way, and it's hindsight's 20/20 wisdom, isn't it, fellas? Really, you look back.
How'd you handle it, Steve? I know the story because I've journeyed.
Well, the way we tried to handle it was an addiction, so we just tried to fix it, and we just tried to, we just kept trying to fix things, because I'm a fixer. I'm a builder, and you fix things if you're a handyman kind of guy. And so and it was just driving both my wife and I insane, because our daughter was on ice, and it was just really, really bad. And it's a shocking addiction that,
how bad was it, Steve?
Oh, well, she was dealing, and yeah, she ended up going through Supreme Court, never got into jail, which was just a miracle, but because jail doesn't fix people. But it was really bad. I mean, we got to the stage where we had drug raids at home and stuff like that, and had the police carting off our daughter with her yelling out, "Help me, Dad, help me!" And there's nothing you can do. It just about broke your heart. Hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life is sit back and let this happen, because
how did you go through that, Steve? How did you and Fliss go through that?
Well, I think,
like, to see your daughter get carted out of your house, probably in front of the grandsons.
No, they were all at school, thank God. And I was kind of
standing there watching your daughter.
Yeah, that was terrible. But we come to a point beforehand. I had a mate who was a guy who I'd grown up with, who married us, actually. He was in the ministry, married us, and he was still a good mate. And this guy had a disabled son, severely disabled. And this guy, Gary's his name, and he sat me down one day and he said, "Steve, I'm watching you." And he said, "I've got to have a talk to you," because he says, my son is disabled. He said, he has a disability and I can't fix it. He said, I tried to fix it and it nearly sent me crazy. He said, you can't fix a disability. You can only learn to manage it. And he said, I had to learn to manage it, and I had to help my son learn to manage it. And he just said, an addiction that your daughter's got is a disability, and you cannot fix it. You've got to learn to manage it. And the way you're managing it is wrong. You're trying to fix it, and you cannot fix it. And it's going to destroy you and destroy your marriage and destroy everything. And it was the best thing. I mean, it was just really wide open, open my eyes. Then the other thing that we just watched this fella come across this video that was just, it was on YouTube or something. We saw it. And this woman, she said, "Look, I was on ice for years, and I have been off ice for 8 years. And I want to tell you as a parent," she said, "the only thing I can tell you that'll help you and help your kid is this." She said, "If you are doing anything for your kid other than driving them to a rehab and walking them into that rehab, then you are enabling them, and that will kill them. I need to say that again. She said, if you're doing anything for your kid, apart from driving them to a rehab, you are enabling them, and that will kill them. So those two words, disability, the addiction is a disability, and enabling, they just resonated with us so good, and that changed us. That just turned our thing around. We've got to just let this happen. And the police were talking to me and stuff, and so we just had to stop trying to. We just protected the boys, protected ourselves, protected the home, and started the chain of events that eventually led to where my daughter is off ice. She went through some terrible stuff, and got probably reckon she met Jesus in jail, and she was going through the DTs. So got off that, and she's always going to battle with addiction, and she's probably always going to battle with drugs, but she's not on ice anymore, I'm pretty sure, because she knows if she gets caught again, she will go back to prison. She got a 4-year good behaviour bond in the Supreme Court. She was going to go to jail. That was amazing. And the judge said, it's funny, we're in court, and the judge said, Matilda, you're 30 or 29. He said, your parents are here. This doesn't happen. People who've done what you've done don't have parents who hang around and who sit in the Supreme Court. He said, and I got letters from all of our kids who all wrote letters supporting her, and a bunch of other professional people. He said, I've read every letter from your brothers and sisters. He said, you come from a good family. I'm not going to put you in jail. I'm going to let you out in 2 years parole and 4 years good behaviour. So she's still working through that, but she's done well, and the boys, her boys are in good shape this time with snares. But that was, we survived that, but only, that was so hard. That was probably the hardest thing. But again, it was that whole thing of stop trying to fix it. And it's a God thing, if you want to put in spiritual terms, because God's got to have his way. And I was just trying to, and you can't fix it. We had to learn to manage ourselves, and had to help Matilda, take hands off so she could learn through make mistakes to just manage it herself. So yeah, that was hard. Yeah. And then
in the middle of all that, Steve, you had another bombshell dropped on you.
Well, we did, yeah. Our eldest son, he did medicine, and then about when he moved to Sydney, he was in the middle of medicine. Our son came out and just told us he was gay, and that was pretty big surprise, big shock, and took a while for us to work through that. And probably the great thing about, we read a lot and thought a lot, and we'd always had a lot to do with
what sort of questions went through your mind at that point, Steve? And how do you process it?
Well, question went through my mind, like, what have we done? Like, and you go through and you question everything. And you just realise this is not caused. Like, that was the thing we had to come to realise that this is not. It's not like a cause thing. And I know all sorts of, a lot of Christians have all sorts of different ideas on this. But when you've gone through it yourself, and you've studied theology, and you've been a minister for a long time, and something like this comes through, and you rationalise the whole thing, you think, hang on, we made this boy, and we love him, and he's ours, and it wasn't caused. And the only choice involved in the whole thing, and we had to learn this as well, the choice was for him to come out and actually tell us and not try and keep it hidden, and just be open and trust us and trust our relationship. And we did that. and we've come through that. And just love him, and he is just the most amazing elder brother for our kids. He's just an incredible doctor and servant with a love for people and care. And I guess working through all that, we have been introduced as well to a community, like the whole LGBT community, which is huge, and the most incredible, lovely, wonderful bunch of people that need love, need to hear about Jesus. Many of them have been rejected by their families, rejected by church, rejected by all sorts of things. Very open to Jesus. A lot of them still have a faith, have had faiths, and so that was a huge thing. We don't even think about it now. I never talk about, unless I'm doing something like this, which I think is, and the only reason I talk about it because I think it's helpful for men to hear someone else be able to talk about it, because we don't talk about our gay son. He's just our son. That's just it. He's just it, and he's our kids' eldest brother, and they just love him, and he's fantastic. So that's, that was, so there was a couple of things happen all around the same time there, which really kind of, it challenges to the heart, but I think we've come through it, and you're never too old to learn. So, the way I feel now, I don't think I've failed the kids. Or the family at all, really. You can always do better,
but you are a great father, Steve, and you're a great mate, and I really appreciate. I know you guys. we both Steve and Felice and Rachel and I walked through some journeys, hard journeys there about 8-9 years ago together.
Yeah, we did.
And you are a great mate, Steve, and I really appreciate you, mate.
Good on you. Thanks, buddy.